In the last year and a half, I've ridden over 24 different bikes, and of those, I have fallen more in love with one of them than with any of the others. Since I started riding this bike, I've ridden over 20 other bikes, and I still fancy it more than a cat fancies a shrew in the grass. Now, this bike is extremely nimble, yet still inspires gobs of confidence. If you caught our SL mountain bike comparison video, then you likely have a pretty good idea. This bike is the Pivot Shuttle SL. I chickened out. I need to ride into it again.
Today, Pivot is announcing a second lightweight eMTB.
All right, let's get ready to party.
The Shuttle SL-AM.
The Slam.
It's time to slam now.
Don't let the lack of a creative name fool you. The SL-AM might just be the one-horned horse of an eMTB that'll be the Everest of lust for e-bike enthusiasts around the globe. If you're familiar with Pivot bikes, you can consider it an electric version of the popular Switchblade. And no, that doesn't make it a Sawzall, as Pivot doesn't claim to own such a tool. The concept behind the SL-AM is that it adapts the lightweight ethos of the Shuttle SL and sprinkles in the same geo and suspension of the slightly longer travel Shuttle AM. The Shuttle SL is a 150-130 travel bike, uses a Fazua drive system, and when built for real life, weighs about 44 pounds. Getting bigger, the Shuttle AM encourages more send with that 160-150 travel, uses a Bosch CX4 race motor, and builds up closer to 50 pounds. And now the SL-AM lives right between these two with a toe placed boldly on each bike's turf. Before we get into the details of the new SL-AM, let's back up slightly and establish why this bike exists. It's a lightweight type of e-bike we call an SL. And when I first heard about the concept of SL eMTBs, I was a little bit skeptical, but then I rode one. With bicycles, regardless if they're electrified, generally the part of the ride that's the most memorable is the epic descent. SL eMTBs prioritize descending prowess by utilizing minimal battery and motor weight. The goal is to have the bike feel more like an actual bike. Yes, they are heavier than a regular meat-powered bike, but that weight is more centralized around the cranks than the more plump e-bikes. This creates a much more neutral feel. Full power, full battery e-bikes end up carrying a lot of that weight forward, keeping the front end far more glued to the ground. Don't even think about trying to land smoothly, it's going to be a thunk regardless. At 175 pounds, I can expect to cover about 4,000 feet of elevation from an acceptable SL eMTB. That's typically a solid 2-hour ride. If you do the math, that's about twice as fast as on an analog bike. While these SLs are a couple miles per hour slower than the full power, it's still far faster than earning your turns the old-fashioned way.
As you all know, I'm a huge fan of these lightweight SL types of e-bikes. They provide a little bit less assistance, so you've got to do quite a bit more effort to get yourself to the top of the hill. On the downhills, you then have a way lighter bike that's a heck of a lot more fun to ride. And to me, that's a very worthwhile trade-off. And I don't really mind the extra exercise up the hill. Speaking of exercise, I just pedaled this thing up the hill for 45 minutes and I'm pretty sweaty, and we've got another 4 hours out here on the trail. I've been lucky enough to partner with the fine folk over at Element who make a really simple electrolyte supplement. I found that on longer rides like what we're doing today, one of these packets in my water bottle keeps me going a lot stronger for a lot longer. For a limited time now, you can use the link in my description below. It's drinkelement.com/Jeff, J-E-F-F, to get a free sample pack with any purchase. Today we're celebrating the beginning of summer with the brand new flavor from Element called Lemonade Salt. This stuff's really good, and we've been drinking it for the last couple weeks, and I think many of you might like it too. Big thanks to Element for sponsoring this video, and big thanks to all of you for trying this stuff and letting me know how you like it. With that, let's drop in and ride the Pivot Shuttle SL-AM. Stay salty, everyone. Tastes like summer.
The Shuttle SL-AM uses a surprisingly popular Bosch SX drive system. This is the same unit as I rode last summer on the Norco Fluid VLT, the same unit that transition specs on the Regulator SX, and other brands like Marin and Commensal and Canyon are all using. In short, it's quickly becoming a popular choice. Is it the best choice? We'll get into that later. Stay tuned. The SL-AM uses a 400 watt-hour battery and has a 250 watt-hour range extender available now, but Pivot were unable to provide me one for this video. I would love to try this bike with that range extender. I could eke out 4,000 feet of vert using the lowest power modes, so I have to wonder what's possible with that extender.
Here we are starting the climb, 10:30 a.m. Full battery. Let's see how it does. So I've been riding for 33 minutes. I've climbed basically 2,000 feet and I'm at over half battery. That's pretty good. It's pretty fast and pretty efficient. Basically 11 miles, 4,300 feet of vert, and we got, probably 20% battery, 10% battery.
Pivot has been selling eMTBs for 8 years now, and a good example of how that benefits all of us is the redesigned charge port. This is now the best charge port I've ever used, and it's also the simplest. Harvesting black magic, Pivot found devices called magnets that close the hatch.
Magnets, how do they work?
This is genius. The SLAM features a full carbon frame. The rear end has some very interesting curves, including perhaps the curviest chainstays and C-stays of any bike I've ever seen. There is a geo adjust on the seat stay, and the steeper position does allow a 27.5 rear wheel if you'd like. Speaking of that, it's typical Pivot, and there's a full gamut of sizes available, including extra small. The bike uses a Super Boost rear wheel, resulting in a lovely stiff frame and ride characteristics. I like a torsionally stiff bike. My test bike showed up with a Fox 36 all-mountain fork using the Grip X2 damper, a great choice for an eMTB. The rear shock is a Float X, and similar to the Trailcat, the stock valving feels really good. For a while there, I was much happier with Pivot bikes when I threw on something valved less firmly, but lately, Pivot has been using some really good shock tunes. Much of this is likely thanks to Alex, who works for Fox and often rides with the Pivot crew.
On the prior generation Shuttle SL, I whined and complained a little bit about the stock shock tune. On this new one, just like on the Trailcat, the rear suspension feels really good right out of the box. I did go to a little bit less sag and a little more air pressure just because I'm often trying to hit jumps like these right here. And down in Arizona, where Pivot's based, there's not nearly as many jump lines as there are up here. So I'm running a tad less sag. It still feels really good. Just trail riding, this thing is quite a bit plusher than the old Shuttle SL. And then hitting jumps like this, I am bottoming out when I overclear or case slightly. But if I hit the backside and everything without adding any more volume reduction, I'm using an appropriate amount of travel. So big kudos to Pivot on how they did the shock tuning and the rear suspension kinematics.
I rode the SLAM in its stock format, then quickly changed a few critical items. First up, tires. For what will be a 45-pound bike, I need heavier duty casing than the stock Exo Plus single ply. Here in the wet P&W, I also prefer the softer Max Grip compound. I don't care if Max Grip wears out in a fortnight in Arizona, it still looks new after 2 months of riding here, and has a great relationship with wet routes with nothing but a secure attachment style. Next up, the stock bars, grips, and stem kind of threw me off. I ended up going with a shorter stem, a bit more sweep on the bars, and some grips I'm familiar with. Once I had these minor bits changed, quickly, the SLAM allowed me to kick my cleats off and relax like I was finally at home.
If you guys are enjoying this video, please scroll down and hit that red subscribe button. Please and thank you.
The SRAM motive brake surprised me. Not overly powerful, but with a really good lever feel, these are easily the best feeling modern SRAM brakes that I've ever experienced. For trail duties, they've been fantastic. I started to enjoy my time on the SLAM immensely.
Yes.
The slightly shorter reach measurement feels great, allowing me to get into my usual riding style almost immediately. The seat angle is steep, but not annoyingly so, and I made it up a few climbs that I didn't expect to.
There we go, SL power.
The SLAM feels more like a relaxed version of the SL. It doesn't pull for jumps and wheelies quite as easily, but it also doesn't care if you miss your marks. The extra travel is definitely more forgiving, and the feel is just fun and easy. That 20 mils of extra travel is just enough that it's pleasantly noticeable, and the 5 fewer pounds of weight compared to that Shuttle AM is placed strategically in a way the bike is far more willing to leave the ground. Even though it kills the range, I do appreciate that the boost mode can have so much power. It annihilates the battery. You'd be lucky to get 2,000 feet of vert in boost mode, but we all have too little time on occasion, and we still try to squeeze in a ride, so that option is nice to hit the full 600 watts when you need it. The DW Link suspension is fine. On square-edged hits and successive routes, it's forgiving enough to allow for good momentum. I have never felt any suspension bob on any eMTB I've ever ridden. And the SLAM was no different. As for rear wheel traction on climbs, I believe what matters most is the tire, seat angle, and rider position. The DW Link does just fine, but we will always be limited by these narrow 2.5-inch wide rear tires that we all use. Seat angles in the 76-degree range, which the SLAM is, generally put a nice amount of weight on each wheel. Enough for good traction on the rear drive wheel and enough weight up front that we aren't lifting the front end with each power stroke. Complaints. My biggest complaint surely won't matter for many, but the chainstays are a full 12 millimeters longer than the Shuttle SL. I have been playing with the Firebird's 8mm adjustment recently, and have been surprised to feel the biggest difference in chainstay length
I can't manual today.
is how a bike pops off a jump. I was concerned that the SLAM would lose some jumping feel compared to the Shuttle SL. It does, but the bike still handles jumps quite well. The more I've been riding, the more I've come to realize that the short stays of the SL are a big part of why I love that bike so much. Unique to e-bikes, with the weight of the battery up front, a shrimpy short back end balances all that out so well, allowing for an insanely nimble feel and easy jumping feel that I just really love. Now, why are the chainstays so long? Well, it's due to that Bosch SX motor. My next complaint is the Bosch SX system. This system has a loud clacking sound which you can hear in almost every riding shot in this video. This is the most annoying noise of any eMTB system I've experienced. I can definitely ignore it, but it's worth reporting. Next up, the range isn't great. I have to ride in Eco, and the controller is extremely sensitive and is so easy to bump into the other modes. Eco is also more powerful than I need, and like I did with the Norco, I will soon be turning down the power. Bosch needs riders to spin an extremely fast cadence to get max power, and not necessarily a hard effort on the pedals. Other systems are more responsive to how hard you may be pedaling, and I do prefer that as it's more natural if we're spinning a cadence 5 to 10 RPM faster than normal. I've been riding another bike with a much heavier Bosch CX-5 drive system with the giant 800 watt-hour battery. And with that bike, only 6,000 feet of vertical is about my max. I suspect the SX drive system will be close to that range when used with the extender. This is good. A big part of my love for the lighter weight bikes is due to my region. Pedaling up logging roads, we don't need to worry about the rocky stair steps of climbing that surround places like Pivot's home office down in Phoenix.
Yes, such a fun line.
I'm okay with using a lighter weight, lower power system for a better overall experience. Conclusion. I came into this worried that somehow Pivot would wreck the Shuttle SL. They didn't. They made something else, and I'm feeling it's an excellent addition to the line. It's a more turnkey bike than the Shuttle SL, not requiring an immediate visit to the aftermarket. I very much look forward to trying a range extender, as that was something I've greatly appreciated with other eMTBs. Maybe one day, Fazua will finally get a range extender out, but at this point, it's been 4 years of promises and 0 deliveries. So for now, the SLAM is the one to get.
And with that, it's an outro. Big thanks to Pivot for loaning me this bike to make this video. Big thanks to Logan for traveling with me to do some filming. Thanks to Riley for helping edit all this. And also big thanks to Savannah, who also posted a ride review of the SLAM up to my website. I'm going to link to that down in the description below. And if you haven't visited yet, my website is jeffkendallweed.com. URL you may expect. All right, big thanks everyone. I'll see you in those comments down below. Peace and wheelies.